All right, everyone get ready, because we are going deep on the history of the hamburger. You might think you know this all-American classic, but get this, there's way more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. And you guys sent in some interesting stuff for this deep dive.
It really is more than just ketchup and mustard, right?
Yeah, we're talking a global icon here, folks.
Okay, so let's go back in time. Imagine America in the late 1800s, a time when profit-driven agriculture was everything.
Right, culinary diversity. Not a big concern back then. Simple, hearty meals were kind of the name of the game.
A world of practicality. I mean, especially with factories on the rise, the workforce needed to be fueled up quickly.
Speed and efficiency were key ingredients, so to speak.
I'm guessing delicate finger sandwiches weren't going to cut it?
Not really, and let's just say dental hygiene wasn't a top priority back then. Imagine trying to eat a fancy sandwich with, well, you get the picture.
Yeah, makes sense. So enter the steak sandwich, basically the hamburger's ancestor.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But why the switch from steak to ground meat?
Well, affordability and efficiency come into play here. Ground meat was cheaper, way easier to cook, and perfect for a society focused on, getting things done. Plus, easier to chew for those, let's say, dealing with some dental challenges.
Wow, so missing teeth played a role in culinary history. Never thought of that. But hold on, the hamburger wasn't actually born in America, was it?
You're catching on. The story gets even more interesting when we bring in a German invention. It debuted at the 1876 Centennial Exposition, the meat grinder.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly, ground meat was even more accessible, plus more palatable for everyone.
So a German invention helps create this American icon. Yeah, that's a twist. And speaking of Germany, why is it called a hamburger anyway?
Well, the name comes straight from Hamburg, Germany. See, many German immigrants left from the port of Hamburg, bringing their love of ground meat dishes to America. It's a classic immigrant story.
So the hamburger, the symbol of American food, might actually have German roots. That's pretty wild.
It's definitely possible. Food and culture are so intertwined, especially in a nation built on immigration. But the story takes a dramatic turn. Early 20th century, we call it the hamburger crisis.
Hamburger crisis. Sounds serious. What happened?
Picture this. Regulations are lax, competition is fierce. You had some, well, let's say, less than honest vendors, and the quality of hamburgers took a nosedive.
Talk about a PR nightmare. How did the hamburger ever bounce back from that?
That's where White Castle comes in. A true pioneer. They got that transparency was key. So open kitchens, emphasis on cleanliness, safety. In the name White Castle, evokes purity, trustworthiness.
So smart. They completely changed how people saw the hamburger. Made it safe and appealing again.
Exactly. But just as the hamburger was getting back on its feet, World War II happened.
Oh.
Meat shortages, labor shortages, a whole new set of challenges.
And that's where the McDonald brothers enter the picture, right? Two movie theater owners who saw an opportunity in the middle of all this wartime chaos.
You got it. They had a radical idea. Streamline everything. No more chefs, simplify the menu, focus on affordability and speed, and embrace the 24-hour model.
They were thinking way outside the bun. It sounds like the blueprint for the whole fast food world we know today.
Right. And their focus on French fries. Genius move.
I mean, weren't hamburgers still their main thing?
Sure. But with meat being scarce during the war, French fries became this unique selling point. They were adapting and cleverly navigating those wartime shortages.
Like, hey, come for the fries, stay for the burger. I get it. That kind of thinking helped them build a fast food empire. So we have the Germans laying the groundwork, White Castle saving the day, and then the McDonald brothers revolutionizing everything.
It's a wild ride.
The humble hamburger has quite the backstory. But before we go any further, I have to ask about something you mentioned earlier.
Okay, what's that?
The missing teeth. Did America just experience some kind of dental revolution? Or did people just get used to, mushy food?
That is a great question, and honestly, it deserves its own deep dive. The story of evolving dental practices and the human palate, it's a fascinating one. It's wild how the hamburger went from, beloved to a bit of a crisis. Public perception is powerful stuff. It really shapes what we eat.
Yeah, transparency in the kitchen. Who knew that would be such a game changer? But White Castle and the McDonald brothers, they both did things differently, right? What else set them apart?
Well, White Castle, they were all about those sliders. Small, thin, almost like little meat wafers. Part of that was, the focus on safety, making sure the meat was cooked all the way through.
Ah, so no worries about a pink patty during the hamburger crisis.
Got it.
Got it. But the McDonald brothers went in a totally different direction with their burgers, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. thicker, rounder patties. It was a deliberate choice to stand out from White Castle. You could say they were already building their brand from the beginning.
So we have the Germans setting the stage, White Castle rescuing the reputation, and then the McDonald brothers revolutionizing, pretty much everything. This all-American food has quite the international story.
It really shows you food is more than just ingredients. It's history, culture, necessity, all mixed together. You brought up an interesting point before about the McDonald brothers and the French fries. Were they really trying to, downplay the hamburger itself?
Yeah, that part confused me a little. I mean, hamburgers were still their, main attraction, weren't they?
Absolutely. But think about it. Meat was hard to come by during World War II. By focusing on the fries, they created something unique, and they got around those wartime limitations really smart.
So it was more like, hey, come for the fries, stay for the burger.
Mm.
That's clever. That kind of thinking is probably what helped them build their empire. But can we talk about the name for a second? Like, how did an American staple get its name from a German city?
Well, a lot of German immigrants came to America, right? And many of them left from the port of Hamburg. They brought their love of ground meat dishes with them, and those dishes became pretty popular in German communities here. Over time, the connection between the immigrants, their food, and the city of Hamburg, it just stuck.
So it wasn't some big marketing plan or something?
Nope. It was more of a natural evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Culture, language, food. It's amazing how these things reflect, migration patterns and cultural influences.
It's a reminder that American cuisine is a melting pot. But it is a little ironic, don't you think? This iconic American food with such strong German roots.
Absolutely. The stories behind our food are always more complex than we think. That's what makes them so interesting to explore.
I'm with you there. Ready for more juicy details about the hamburger's journey?
Oh, there's a lot more to uncover. The story's not over yet.
It's amazing how the hamburger has gone from like a simple meal to this global icon. We've talked about the hamburger crisis, the McDonald brothers, all that. But the impact of German immigrants on American food, it's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is, and it goes way beyond just hamburgers.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. Frankfurters, hot dogs, even the hamburger bun itself, they all have roots in German traditions.
I've always thought of hot dogs as like a baseball game food,
Yeah.
backyard barbecues, never really connected them with German immigrants. It's crazy how these influences are just like baked into American food. Speaking of hot dogs, didn't our source material have a fun fact about where they came from?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It all starts with these long, thin sausages in Germany called Frankfurter Würstchen, named after the city of Frankfurt, obviously. And when they came to America, well, they were usually served in a long, soft roll. So basically, a Frankfurter sandwich.
Okay, yeah, I can see why that name didn't exactly catch on. It's a bit of a mouthful, literally.
Exactly. And that's where the hot dog name comes in. The story goes there was this cartoonist watching a vendor selling these Frankfurter sandwiches at a baseball game, and he couldn't really make out what the vendor was calling them.
So what happened?
He drew a dachshund in a bun, labeled it hot dog, and the rest is history.
Wait, so the name hot dog came from a cartoon. That's amazing.
It is pretty funny. Sometimes humor plays a bigger role in food culture than we realize.
For sure. What about the classic condiments, mustard and ketchup? Are those German too?
Mustard definitely has German roots, especially that tangy yellow kind we put on everything. Ketchup's a little more, global in its history. But German immigrants definitely helped make it a staple in America.
So German influence is like everywhere in this hamburger story. It really makes you think twice about that whole all-American label, doesn't it?
It does. The hamburger, it's a fusion, necessity, innovation, a little bit of humor. It's a perfect example of how food is about more than just ingredients. It's about people, stories, cultures coming together.
I couldn't have said it better myself. This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the hamburger.
And hopefully it makes you think about other foods in your life, too. How many of them have these surprisingly complex, fascinating stories behind them?
That's a great point. So next time you bite into a juicy burger, remember, you're not just tasting ground beef and toppings. It's a taste of history, a little cultural exchange, and maybe even a dash of dental intrigue. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and most importantly, keep those taste buds curious.